Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast number 276. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years.
For more information, go to axontire.com. And do you know what else?
What's that?
Axon would like to give the loyal listeners of the Moving Iron Podcast a free Axon desk pad.
Rad.
Anyone who emails marketing@axontire.com will then get their Axon desk pad. Make sure to mention you heard it on the Moving Iron Podcast.
Maybe that's the most important part.
That is imperative. Imperative. There you go.
That's the word you're looking for.
Not imperative. Imperative.
Not imperative. Imperative. Right. Right on. So Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, at Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. Go ahead.
And no matter how you buy ag equipment from a dealer, auction, or private party, AgDirect can finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. And to learn more about your financing options, go to agdirect.com.
And finally, Tractor Zoom has access to over $20 billion in heavy equipment sales data. Tractor Zoom's Iron Comps is the industry's trusted solution for transparent equipment values and auctionable pricing insights. All right, folks. So we are back here for another edition of the Moving Iron Podcast. And we don't have very many rules on this podcast, but we do have one.
Hey, what's rule number one? Party? No, not party. No, it's not party.
It's not party, but it is Moving Iron Podcast. So what fun would it be?
Sometimes it's party.
Without a little bit of a party.
Just a little bit of party.
So this week, Aaron and I are going to sit down and talk about probably we don't talk about it near enough. I don't think people in the industry talk about it near enough. It's just one of those things that just happens.
It's talked about real hot and heavy for a week in November and a week in March.
Yeah. There's two things that come along with it. We're going to talk about fall tillage, obviously. Fall tillage has two big components. One, obviously the tillage piece, and two, the tractor that comes with it, right?
Correct.
So are you doing some deep ripping? Are you doing just some light, just knocking the corn stalks down and doing some residue management? Whatever you're doing in the fall, you put anhydrous down, you put whatever, strip tilling, whatever you're doing in the fall, that requires a level of horsepower.
Exactly.
And each one of those things has a different level of horsepower. So one thing that we will do here is that when you hear Easy E,
you are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
I love the soundboard, dude. So when you hear Easy E come on,
just a little bit.
So when you hear Easy E come on, we're gonna lay down what we think is what's going on in the industry. So, Aaron, if you were to take a hard look at tillage practices and how they've changed from the time you started in this business to where we're at now, what's one of the biggest things you've seen change in the fall?
Oh, man. This would be more, I guess my experience would be Western Corn Belt, in that.
Right.
Holy shit, 20 some years. But what I have seen the most of is it happening.
Yeah.
There used to be very little activity in the fall.
Right.
Mainly, other than I can remember, you had certain parts of Kansas, Nebraska, a little bit of Dakota, Iowa, guys doing a lot of fall gas anhydrous.
Yeah. Yep.
That's always been kind of a thing. Always been, in certain parts of the world. But in other areas, it used to be, of course, you look back 20 years, there's less farmers, but bigger farmers and less diversification. So 20, 25 years ago, you had guys that, you had more of the 500 to 1,000 guy that had cows and he needs them stocks.
Right.
Or, even this 2,000 acre guy he don't have cows, but the neighbor does, and the neighbor needs stock. So
Right.
that has a big impact on it. Fall stock grazing. If you're in that part of the world, certain
Right.
parts of the world,
Yeah.
there are other parts of the world that just does not exist.
Right.
Never going to, and hasn't for half a century probably.
Right. Yeah.
So it just kind of depends. Something you and I've talked about on here a lot is the fads of tillage.
Yeah.
So I can remember when I first started and I was in central Nebraska.
And there's nothing more fad related in agriculture than tillage.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the devil. It's the best thing.
Right.
You got to do shallow. You got to do deep. You got to go slow. You got to blaze across. It just depends on what is hot that day. Right.
The way you finish is really important.
Yeah.
You get the crumbler, don't you have the crumbler?
Right. Exactly.
You got a harrow behind it.
Not only that, is it a flat bar crumbler or a round bar?
Right. Do you have a harrow?
Yeah,
a harrow. You know what I mean? Two different things.
That's right. Very different. They just look the same. But I can remember in late 90s, early 2000s, ridge till was still hanging on.
Yeah.
In big areas. So that was the anti fall tillage, that world, because we got to save them ridges, but different products, like the rolling choppers, they were the hot shit back then. And there would be some guys that would do that in the fall. They don't work very good in the fall because the corn's too tough yet. Needs winter to decomp, but there'd be some of that. There'd be some guys doing like them stump pullers,
Sure.
them V-shaped disc blade deals.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've seen a lot of different stuff in the last 20, 25 years, but fall, I would say for darn sure Western Corn Belt, we don't do, like the ice state thing so much, the disc ripper and,
right.
Get out there and heave it all up, mix it up and flip it over. In this part of the world, it seems like, we do a lot of fall ripping inline.
Sure.
Just inline rippers and
right.
done. There's a slit in the ground. That's all we did.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit of everything, but I have seen that fall turnip black slowly move west.
Mm-hmm.
To the slowly move out of the rain country,
right? Just
to try and handle residue,
right?
We're talking 25 years ago, 200 was right on.
Mm-hmm.
Now it better be 3,
right?
So you're doing a 50% bump in yield production. You get more residue with that. Populations increase, all that stuff. So there's a lot of trash to handle.
Yep. And I think the one part of the tillage discussion out here in our neck of the woods where we're at is that we do fall tillage. I'm not saying that we don't do fall tillage, but so much of that corn stock is one of two things. One, they just come through and swath it and windrow it and bale it and leave the root stubble into the ground yet. And then they come back in the fall and they turn, or the spring, and turn it over and do what they're going to do then right before they go into plant. Or they come in with a vertical till or something like that where they're trying to mix it up as much as they can, but cut that stock just big enough that hopefully it stays between the rows.
Right.
Now most people that made a VT tool, I want you to come out here to Western Nebraska in the wintertime, and I want you to stand in the field in January when the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour and tell me how much of that corn stock is staying where it needs to stay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Not much.
Not very much, right? So it's one of those things where there's different schools of thought on what we're doing now. Typically, in a normal year, we have a lot more snow cover to keep stuff in place, a lot more moisture to keep stuff in place longer. But
once upon a time,
the last couple of winters have been pretty rough.
Now we get our snow cover to keep it in place.
Yeah.
Right before we plant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's our pre-plant snow.
So we'll see. Hopefully we'll see a little bit of that change this winter, that we get some more of that snowpack to kind of keep things in place and in check. So, but
Ooh.
all that being said,
not snowpack. We don't want snowpack. Snow cover.
snow cover,
Yeah.
pack, whatever. But
I don't need no damn snowpack, or you can bring a shovel.
just during all we need snowpack for is during pheasant season, and then they can melt all the way.
No, nobody cares. People have livestock. We got shit to do.
Well, you got sheep. Does that count as livestock?
Yes.
I didn't know, man.
It's the other red meat.
I'm new to this.
Eat lamb.
I'm
Hashtag eat lamb.
new to this whole thing. I didn't know what it was. So, but anyway,
Oh, goodness.
so watching that transformation come across. Now, the other side of that too is just you made a good point. As operations have gotten bigger or tillage practices have changed, your 350 horsepower row crop tractor has a limitation to how big of an inline ripper it can
Absolutely.
right? How big of a VT it can move. So now you start looking at the birth of the four-wheel drive to me. And this is where you and I have had this conversation on here a lot about four-wheel drives and what's that look like? Is that the new row crop tractor? And I think in a lot of situations, that row crop tractor used to be kind of limited to that bigger 3-point mounted implement, whatever that might be. But now if you take a look at what's going on with that four-wheel drive, you see a bigger opportunity now for a lot more versatility with that piece of equipment other than just a tillage tractor or just a this or just a that. In a lot of cases, that's your planting tractor, because especially when you start looking at 24-row planters and bigger.
Right.
I mean, to maintain that high speed that you need to maintain, unless you're just on flat bottom ground,
right?
If you got any kind of a hill at all, you're going to struggle with your typical row crop tractor. Right? Now, if you need the horsepower to go up the hill 8 miles an hour, and you don't need the horsepower to go down the hill.
Right. Yeah.
So you're seeing some of that. You're seeing more, deep tillage, that deep break up the hard pan type of tillage is really starting to come back into play. Obviously,
well, and that's imperative. I mean, you can do whatever you want on top, but until you do something about that hard pan, you're only going to get so far.
But I think my point I was making is I think the hard pan is getting deeper.
No, right.
Like where it used to be 6 or 8 inches, now it's like you might be 8 to 10 inches.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you really have to get in there and do
exactly.
It. So I think those kind of things are making a bigger.
I was just making stating a fact about hard pan was all. It wasn't.
Yeah, that was good though. I like that. That was good. But
I was trying to feel needed is all.
so if you have all that stuff in play, then all of a sudden now you have a bigger opportunity to use that 4-wheel drive in a wider expanse on your farm.
Right.
So you see 4-wheel drives kind of start to make that turn, and then they quickly retreat back to kind of where they were on as a preferred tractor in operations, and then you see them kind of rush back up to that cusp for if you will, and then they come back, and you've never seen the full-on adoption of a 4-wheel drive. I think where the adoption of the full-on 4-wheel drive has come into play, where they're going to use a 4-wheel drive to plant and till and grain cart and running down the list of things.
It's the tractor.
It's the tractor, and it's guys that have grown, that have gone from X to Y, and they've made a massive leap in the number of acres that they cover. I think those are the guys that we see doing that, and then we still see some.
Well, and those guys, everything they have is 40. If that's something 40 foot, that's little.
Yeah, it's I mean,
so everything on the yard takes 500 horse.
Yep, and especially with the birth of the high speed stuff.
Oh,
you know what I mean, there's a lot of guys.
What a horsepower drain.
Yeah, you got guys that would run a 35-foot disc, and that's the old adage of thumb. It's 10 horsepower per foot type of thing. Got 35-foot disc
divided by 0.75, and that's what you get for high speed.
Right. Yeah. So now you're doing the same thing, but it's just you probably need, instead of 10, you need 15 or 18 horsepower to make that happen. So all those things start to come into play and what that looks like. So now you start coupling that together, and you're going faster and you're going deeper. Your horsepower requirements are going to go higher.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They have to.
Yeah.
both of those indicators take a substantial amount of power.
And that's what she said.
That is.
I know that's where you're going with that.
I couldn't help it. I've been with teen sons all weekend.
Right on. All right. So looking at that right now, what's one of the, because I mean that's the one thing that we saw happen pretty early in this transition, this period that we're in right now, is where a lot of new tillage got sold.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. One, there was a lot of old age tillage, whether it was a mainline manufacturer or a short line manufacturer. There was a lot of really aged tillage that was hanging around.
Yep.
And guys started pricing new ones. A new one was 25% more expensive than the one sitting on the ground. And it does the exact same thing. I'll just take the one that's here,
right,
save some money, and start playing that game. So I guess, I mean, as you're looking around right now, what's the one piece of equipment from a tillage perspective that you see guys really kind of banging the drum about?
It's pretty early, so there's not a lot of that going on yet. But one thing that I have noticed that's maybe brakes have pumped a little bit is the high speed world has kind of calmed down a little bit. It used to be if you had one, it was gone, and name your price, I need it, get it here. And that's kind of calmed down quite a bit.
Is that because has it gone back to being, I'm going to talk to you about my tillage needs late fall, early spring?
No, because I know a lot of guys that have those and they use it twice. They'll use it in the fall, get some decomp going, and then they'll use it pre-plant.
Right.
I think the biggest factor to it might be that we're finally, and it's kind of funny because since that has blown up, you know, the ag economy was going down as it blew up, and then enter the shit show, shortage, supplied, all that stuff. So once that came into the picture, you know, availability becomes an issue for the last 3 years or whatever, and you just pile all these things on top. It's what we're seeing in everything else right now. That's what started it, you know.
Right.
Basically, that market. That's what really got it going. And I think maybe to the point now, there's enough machines out there that it's maybe calmed down a little bit. But I will say this: you see a lot of 40s on the market. And what did we just say? They take a shitload of horsepower to pull that big of a high speed.
Yeah.
You don't see 25s don't last very long. 30s don't last very long.
Yep.
You get over 30,
well, yeah,
they kind of sit. Yeah. But you know, if that was say that's a 5-year-old rig, you know, that's probably been to its new buyer. Had it 2-3 years. He rolls everything every time, you know, and then it went to the other guy, and now he bought a new one because of the markets, and it might be on its third home. And that's where you run into trouble because that customer segment can't pull it.
Right. So
drop the wings and make 3 out of it.
Right. So this is one thing I've always thought about. We talk about combines and reconditioning points. We talk about tractors and reconditioning points. We talk about planters and reconditioning points, those kind of things. The thing about a piece of tillage is that there's really no, I don't, air quotes here, no real reconditioning. Either you're replacing bearings and you're replacing discs, or you're not.
Right.
If there's an issue with one of the wings or something like that, where you've got some kind of an issue there, that's more of a damage issue than it is a
right.
You know what I mean? It's like you've hit something with it or whatever. I mean, you might have a
wheel rock shaft span or
something like that. I mean, you might have a pivot point that goes bad or something like that. I mean, I get all that, but but normally the reconditioning points on piece of tillage equipment, I mean, that is so wildly varying.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I always, and this is just my this is kind of how I am with everything, but especially tillage. I don't know that you would ever touch a piece of tillage equipment. You budget for reconditioning.
Sure. Right.
But don't actually do it, because that disc in March is a great disc. But if it don't sell for whatever reason, nobody wants that damn thing in May. And if you hold on to it, then it's been here a year, and then it's trouble, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So I think you always budget for it, but don't touch it.
Right.
Wash it off, make it presentable. Be like, here, it's awesome disc, 1435, needs blades. Here's my price. I'll give you blades.
Right.
Don't do it. You can't afford.
No, you can't afford it. Shop.
Joe Blow Farmer doesn't want us to spend $150 an hour to reblade a disc.
Oh yeah,
he doesn't want that. We don't want that. So you budget for it and send with.
I'll disagree with it. We want that. That's a huge profit center for our parts and service part. But I think that at the end of the day, when you really,
if it's sold and the customer's paying for it, we want that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the difference between like hours on a combine or a tractor or acres on a planter, those kind of things where they start to come into play, is acres on a planter. They're kind of an even relative thing, right?
Right.
Acres on a piece of tillage equipment. Now, there's guys out there that bury it to the frame, and there's guys out there that just cut 6 inches. Right?
As Dave says, if we're gonna disc, we're gonna disc.
You look out there, that guy, is he pulling something out there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there. I see it popping up for every once in a while. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things on.
Why are you not making dust?
So I do on tremors, where it's like you see it on
the
ground, but then it pops up, type of thing. Same kind of deal. But then you've got that customer that does that, and then you've got another customer that does another way. What their soil conditions are like play a big factor in. If you're really sandy, loamy soil, you're gonna change a lot of bearings, and hardly gonna change the disc, right? If you're in heavy clay, probably not gonna change many bearings, but you're gonna change a hell of a lot of discs.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So all of those things start to come into play. It's kind of like the difference between if you have 1,200 hours on a combine and all it's ever done is cut wheat, the wear on that machine is completely different than the wear if it's cut edible beans and corn.
Yeah. Or soybeans.
Or soybeans, something like that. Probably at 1,200 hours, the wheat combine is just kind of knocked the paint off the stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's like a 400-hour bean combine.
But so the same thing goes in with your tillage practice.
Right.
So whatever you're using with tillage, even like the deep ripping stuff like that, if you're out here and you're deep ripping, your points on that ripper are going to be completely different wear than you said, like back home where I'm from, Wichita, where it's heavy clay.
Those sons of bitches will glow when you lift it out of the ground at night.
You really have got
don't touch them.
Different things. Yeah, don't touch them. Right now, all that being said, how you recondition those things and how you do that, I'm just saying, I think it's more of like a buyer beware type of thing when you're calling on somebody, calling on a piece of equipment in X or Y. Understand what you're buying and where.
Right.
Like, what is it? Because you call us and you say like, oh, this thing's it's pretty well used in ABC heavy clay area. The thing might look pretty nice.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So those are the kind of things you got to take in consideration when you're calling this place. Understand the soil conditions and also understand the practices that you have. Probably out here, we probably tend to be a little deeper when we till because you can.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas someplace else,
sand.
Yeah, someplace else where it's heavier soil, you might not be that deep, but you're going to get the same level of wear. You know what I'm saying? Like you're deeper, getting more friction against that disc than you are if you are someplace else. But it may look the same, but it may not look the same. So
right.
Completely different animals. So I think it's just one of those things where you got to pay attention and understand what it is that you're doing when you're talking to whoever it is that you're wanting to buy that piece from.
Yeah, I get it.
All right.
That does make sense.
Yeah, because it's different. It's just different.
Different.
All right. So now if you were looking at kind of the overall spectrum of the economy right now, on a whole different thing. Now we're done with all that talking about tillage, but we're talking about the overall economy right now. Looking at the whole economy as a whole, the interest rates came through, Fed bumped everything by 0.25%. I'm looking to see
3/4.
or sorry, 3/4. I'm thinking about the quarter they didn't bump it. That's my bad.
Yeah.
So 3/4 of a point, and they come through. And if you're looking at what's happening, I'm looking to see, between 6.5% and 7.5%, depending on where they were to start with and who you're getting your money from. But you're going to see another half to full point jump in interest rates. It just feels like there's still enough money out there right now that guys are ready to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't feel like there's any kind of slowdown, I guess is what I'm getting.
No. There's a little slowdown, but slowdown from absolute batshit crazy is nothing but good. So,
but I think everyone's got I don't know. The reason I'm saying nothing's slowed down is because we're still, as soon as this new stuff comes in.
Oh yeah. Something shows up, it's gone. So, yeah.
I think there's going to be I'm just interested to see how that goes. Right.
Yeah.
Is someone going to say, well, dude, I said yes at 2.5 or 3%.
Yeah.
Now I'm signed docs at 7.
Yeah. And that really hasn't been a thing recently.
But I don't see it being a thing, to be real honest with you.
No, I don't think so. And until there's 2 digits, I don't think it will, or you're getting closer to 2 digits, I don't think it'll matter.
I think this go around, it won't matter. Period.
No.
I think the next go around,
it'll matter a hell of a lot.
It'll matter. It'll matter. I have to be looking at some stuff.
It'll matter a lot.
Yep. So let's spend a little time talking about this. Talk about looking at your customer base and how you're going at who you're talking to about what and why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing a series of articles about the kind of the customer base, what we see now, lines of delineation, how these stuff are all coming together, and that there are more defined roles for customers than there were ever been in the past, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with the price of equipment, price of used equipment, right?
Absolutely.
Those things are starting to make a big play, and then you start looking at guys, that have for the longest time have had the same amount of acres forever, and prices have gotten to a point to where they're like, I can't do X, but I can do Y.
Right.
What are your thoughts on having those conversations with the customer that we're done X, now they're doing Y, and building that same traditional cost of operation discussion that we would have with that 1 or 2 year old guy that's rolling stuff every year, every 2 years, something like that, buying new, rolling that stuff every year, but kind of going down to that used guy and saying, hey, look, we can do the same thing with you, and here's what it looks like. Do you think that has a play in the equipment business?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
I think it has a bigger play in the used equipment business than on the new side.
It has a more beneficial play, but I don't think it's bigger. I think the new, I just think,
well, I get what
I think the nature of humanality will trump it.
Yeah.
No, humanality.
I didn't know that was a word.
It is. It's the act of being human.
Okay. Just like the Van Halen song.
Yeah, humans being.
That's what makes us humans being.
Yeah.
Right on. So
5150, baby.
So they had my thought process on that is
very little.
Depends on who you ask, but yeah, they have I think my thought on that is that if you have your customer base that you deal with traditionally on the used equipment side that are traditional used equipment buyers, they have a roll cycle just like everybody else does.
Yeah, every so often.
Yeah.
Hours or age.
Some guys that are really dialed into the marketplace, come hell or high water, every 3 years they're getting an X, or every 5 years they're getting a Y. And They're doing that. I think there's a place where you can sit down with the conversation, because the reason they're doing that is there is a cost of operation that they have figured out that fits their operation.
Yeah. Right.
Right. They're not just doing that because
Dollars and
yeah,
cents, man.
It's like me with computers, right? Every 3 years, every 2 years, I get a new computer, and the reason for that is I can buy the exact same computer. Or I'm sorry, I can get the exact same price on the computer that I got 2 years ago. That's like 5 times the computer that I got this time, because of the way technology rolls in now.
Tractors work that way too.
No, they don't. Unfortunately, I've not seen that model work yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Now, you could argue to some extent that as the price of tractors have gone up, so has the level of efficiency with varying levels of technology.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can argue that all day.
I mean, you'll get the guy in here like, I'm buying the exact same tractor with the horsepower that it was 5, blah, blah, blah. You get those same guys to do that. But
well, and those guys aren't using the tech. They just want the tractor.
Right. And I think that's where we're doing. So I think
those are my people.
I think where I'm going with this conversation is I think as I look at the overarching kind of momentum of the farm equipment business is that,
and how it affects humanity.
Yeah, humanity. It's a nice word though. That's totally made up, but that's
it's not.
It's freaking made up. But they have as you're looking at this overarching kind of thing with what we see going on here, the bolt-on technology to me is the greatest differentiator in the value of the actual nuts and bolts of a machine.
No, it's part of, but it's not greatest.
So if I can sell you a tractor today, and I can tell you for the next 10 years, you can run this powertrain, engine, transmission, rear end, mechanical front, whatever it is you got, right? You run all of that. And I can tell you that over the next 10 years, whatever comes out, new, latest and greatest and whatever, you can put on that machine. What functionality, what reason do you need to upgrade your tractor?
Hours, age, depreciation, bottom line, your financial position, lots of things. Got to burn cash
By updating the technology that's on it.
Well, how damn much is the technology going to cost, man?
Well, I'm just saying, like, you can take let's use a sprayer, for example, right? If you have a 2015 R4045, right? Let's use that for example. I can take that machine and I can take off everything about the machine, right? Cab, chassis, powertrain, all that stuff, and I can make it exactly brand new, exactly what we have to offer today.
Like a glider, like a semi-glider kit.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
They'll take like a new truck with no engine and transmission in it,
right,
and then throw like an old 500 cat in it that is like tier 2.
Okay, yeah, something like that. Okay, yeah,
but yours is like backwards of that.
Yeah, mine is you run the same R4045.
You're making a 4440 a 6175R.
Yes. Yeah. You're taking like
without any of the tin, and
so you take like an excursion, right?
Yeah.
And you take
you light it on fire and go, why in the hell did I buy a Ford?
You take an excursion and you take the body off, and you go down to your local Ford dealership and say, I want a 2022 rolling chassis in transmission, and I'll set this one back over top of it, and then I got a brand new.
You got brand new problems.
I got a brand new badass machine, right? So you have that.
You got a brand new thing to walk home from.
But the difference between that is now you take your, think about it. Think about 15 years down the road from now. You have a 2022, 2020, whatever, R4060, right? And whatever the latest and greatest technology is, you've upgraded that along the way, and you just maintain the powertrain of what you got.
Okay.
So what's the benefit of you going out and buying a brand new machine if you just have to maintain the powertrain of what you got?
Age, hours, got to spend money for taxes.
But I'm upgrading the technology stuff that comes along with it.
Why are you trying to not sell machinery? That's what I'm worried about. We're not Dell. We're not working at Gateway. I'm not sending out Holstein boxes.
I'm gonna tell you right now, we are turning. This industry is going to turn to that.
It's
especially when you get to an autonomous vehicle.
We're gonna. Yeah, here we go. I'm just gonna sit around and wait till the Mayan apocalypse. They were off a little bit. It's all this technology is gonna like implode. No, I know that. They were wrong, is what I'm getting at. This technology is gonna like implode the world, and the rest of us will be sitting here with our sound guards going, who wants to rent some ground? I got no electronics.
Sure. Yeah, when there's a EMP attack and
see
those kind of things. Sure.
Electromagnetic pulse.
And I've got a cache of stuff out in the hills here that I'm gonna go out there and fashion when I get
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna start a colony of sorts.
Yeah.
You know? I'm gonna do that.
I like to call mine a compound. I just give it the full brunt.
Colony really makes you feel good warm on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I like compound. It is what it is.
Until you
bring your ammo belt and come on down.
Bring your linked ammunition. Let's go have some fun.
Southwest Tower is open. We need a guard.
But that's something I've been thinking about a little.
Yeah, I do get it. I mean, and you're right. That's 100% where we're going to. I've had guys call on combines, and if it says it's got an activation and it don't, they're upset. You know, and to me, I'm like, it's not like I told you it's got duals and it's got singles.
Right. Yeah.
It's like the salesman didn't check the right damn box.
Yeah.
And it don't have activations. Well, I don't want it. Like, well, it's better than hand shelling, I guess.
Well, yeah. We got one of those in the store. The crank thing, you run the cob through and it does the thing. But I mean, to me, I really think that's the direction that we're headed.
Yeah.
Is that
we're just going, ag is going so incredibly over the top, tech heavy compared to the rest of the world from 0 to 90.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
When I got into this business was when you could buy Trimble. And you could put it on one of 2 different body style makes of tractors.
Sure.
And it was $55,000 because I can drive straight.
The conversations that I used to have with guys about that when I first got in this business was that rich man's tool.
Yeah. That's a toy. I can't afford that business.
That's just one of those things. I mean, hell, you got markers. Yeah, you do. You got markers.
Yes, you do.
And then guys go out and use it, and they realize, hey, I actually, for the money that it cost me to get it, I actually.
And the biggest thing that helped that, I think, as you get into the middle of the ag economy, is the strip till portion. The repeatability.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Your WAS or your subscription, they're great, but there's not many guys that are truly getting the benefit of it, other than you're not nearly as tired. Holy shit, it's a huge difference.
Right.
You're getting a quality of life from it, and you can't really put a dollar amount on that. But the bigger portion of it is as long as you're full bore RTK, and I'd say we're probably 80% RTK out here, at least.
It's got to be more than that. It's
90?
Like 97.3%.
Okay. It's for that repeatability. Once you go down that road, pays for itself super quick. If you're doing strip till and you're back on that strip, bam.
The only reason we wouldn't have RTK somewhere is because we don't have an RTK tower up someplace.
Yeah, but I mean, you got some. If guys who don't strip till, they're working ground and planting and harvesting, and that's what they do. Out here, most of them have RTK, right? But nationally, that's like an SF3 guy.
Dude, I bet you nationally, SF3 guy is the guy that just can't get access to an RTK tower.
Maybe.
So like the Starfire 7000 comes out and you don't need towers anymore. And you're working off of all the various constellations, whether it's GLONASS or whatever the other two are called. I forget off the top of my head, but you got
Big Dipper and Little Dipper.
You got these different constellations out there, man. And
Or is it Orion's belt?
and you're driving down the road now, you don't need a tower. Your repeatability is 300 GPS satellites that are triangulating down to your one where you're at. You're getting after it. To me, that's another example of bolt-on technology.
Okay. Sounds good, man.
I just think that's where we're headed, where we're going, and
I think we're there to a point.
I think it'll be a bigger deal when
Reichert Bridge. That's that thing.
It's falling down.
No, that's that deal you put on like fence challengers to run deer guidance. You put it on red tractors to run deer guidance.
Okay.
There you go, Casey.
Mm-hmm.
I know of guys who are AGCO as a day is long and who are Case IH as a day is long, but they got Operations Center. They got all that shit because they love that yellow globe. They're, they don't care about the green iron. They like that yellow globe.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see that. And I think as more autonomy comes into play, the powertrain of what we're doing, especially when stuff goes to electric, then you're talking about stuff that lasts a lot longer than traditional combustion engine type stuff. I mean, there's less breakdown. There's less breakdown, but there's less componentry that makes that a hindrance, if you will. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
nobody's overhauled a Prius.
Not yet. And so I think that when horsepower just becomes,
but when they do, they'll find an old 110 Honda out in the trees, old 3-wheeler, and throw that sumbitch in there.
Yeah.
Meet you at the drag strip.
Yeah. I always think, when I think about this, you ever watch that movie? Hugh Jackman's in it, and there's like robots and they fight.
Yeah, what is that called?
I can't remember what it's called. But the whole concept,
the boys loved it when they were little.
The whole concept of that thing is you have these super huge, technologically advanced fighting robots. And this guy finds this robot in the scrap heap.
The 4430 robot.
4430 robot. That's kind of where I'm thinking about this, is because you could take a 4430 chassis and powertrain and everything else and make it into the latest and greatest. I mean, if you really think about it.
Yeah, if you really think about it. Welcome to Open Skies. Look at what we can do.
You can take whatever and turn it into whatever.
But see, here's the thing. Nobody's going to spend the R&D to develop any of that kind of shit.
But I don't think there's any R&D to develop. I think it's already exists. It's just a hydraulic block that you plug into your hydraulic system that steers things the way it's supposed to steer. I mean,
I know, but you're talking about like the rolling chassis and update everything around it type deal. Initially, that's what you're talking about.
Sure. But there's like the old
like I said, you're turning a 4440 into a 6175R. Nobody's going to make the kit or any of that shit to do that.
Well, they made that kit.
They might make a 6175R, a 6180R.
They made the kit for the 4440 back in like 2005. It's called Easy Steer, right? You put Easy Steer with what's that thing called? You had to stay between the two things.
Light bar,
yeah. And so that's
don't have that. It's on there, but
right, yeah. But I mean, the idea is that if it's
like the old Outback guidance.
So I mean, the same concept there, where you can take that particular generation of machine, and you don't need to have the hydraulic thing. You got a thing that spins the wheel,
right?
So I mean, in theory,
or like an ATU,
sure,
300 or whatever.
So now you've got, in theory, you could take a 50-year-old powertrain and make it do everything the new tractor can do.
Do we get to do that?
What do you mean?
I got 7 years and I'll be 50. My powertrain will be 50.
Hip replacements and
I need some updated tech.
Yeah.
Good heavens.
So anyway, all right. Good place to stop. I think we've kind of hit that point there. So, Aaron, folks want to reach out to you, get more information about what it is you got going on. What's the best way to do that?
Smoke Signal, Pony Express.
Right.
What are them birds called?
Homing pigeon.
Homing pigeon. Yes, sir. With a little message on its leg.
Sure. Message in a bottle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're kind of landlocked.
The North Platte gets kind of low, so you might get stuck somewhere between here and
it might take a minute for that message in a bottle to get to Boxer County, but somehow. No, I'm on the socials. Aaron Fennell on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, just at Aaron Fennell. Email Aaron.Fintel at MovingIronLLC.com, or best way, call me or text me 308-760-1193.
Right on. I am Casey Seymour. You can find me at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. You can find me at LinkedIn at Moving Iron Podcast. You can check out the video version of this podcast on the Moving Iron YouTube channel called the Moving Iron YouTube channel. Pretty original.
Dude, great job.
Pretty original.
Hell yeah.
Came through with that one. Real good. You can also go to MovingIronLLC.com and you can check out everything Moving Iron related, blog posts, all the good stuff, plus all the information for the Moving Iron Summit coming up here in Nashville, Tennessee, 6th, 7th, and 8th of September. If you're interested in doing that, you really need to get signed up because that's rapidly filling up and getting really close to selling the sucker out. So,
booyah!
If you're looking forward to doing that, send me an email at MovingIronPodcast at MovingIronPodcast.com, or you can just click in the upper right hand corner, Moving Iron Summit tab, bring down and just click the registration tab, and you can get sign up there. So if you're a dealer of any kind, by all means, well worth coming. We've got deer guys, case guys, AGCO guys, Kubota guys, you name it, they all come. So check it out. So if you're interested in doing that, check that out there. A good friend of ours, Alex Chachenko, is fighting a good fight over there in Ukraine. He's hauling humanitarian aid between Poland and wherever it needs to go in Ukraine. He sent me a video the other night of air raid sirens going off and stuff flying around in the air in the middle of the night. So he's in the middle of the stuff there. If you
war zone,
yeah, he's getting after it. So you want to help him out? There's a show link or a link in the show notes. Check that out, or you can go to his GoFundMe page, which is Help Alex Transport Humanitarian Aid from Poland to Ukraine, and you can help him out there. So with that, I am Casey Stephen with my good friend ARRON Aaron Fennell. So with that, let's come with some iron, folks. Out.
Moving iron in the 21st century.